Okay, so I just want to talk quickly about the new Land Rover Defender. So this is something that I personally been waiting for years. The Defender was discontinued about 3 years ago, which I can remember at the time thinking, bloody hell, they're still making that car after sort of 70 odd years, whatever it was. But yeah, they stopped making them about 3 years ago. I've never owned one myself, but I've driven plenty of different versions over the years, from really old ones, sort of like 50-year-old Defenders, to I drove a brand new one back in 2008, I think it was. I've driven a few since, like friends and things like that. And you know, they're absolutely, I can see why they're so iconic. They're fantastic off-road, there's no doubt about that. Anyone watching this who's interested in the new Land Rover Defender is going to understand that they're fantastic off-road. They're utilitarian cars. They were originally designed to do a job, and that was it. And people who love them absolutely love them, but the fact of the matter is, to drive on the road, there's no real word other than crap. The way they drive on the road is pretty rubbish. If you have an accident in one, even at slow speed, you're probably going to get pretty badly hurt as well, because there's absolutely no kind of like crumple to the car at all. It's like driving around in a solid metal box that's just going to do whatever damage to whatever it hits, but absolutely no kind of protection or cushioning to you whatsoever. So the new car, I've seen a few reviews online, as I'm sure you have, and I'm obviously not privileged enough or important enough to get a test drive or look at one. I'm not a car journalist or anything. I'm just someone who's been absolutely enthusiastic about cars since a young age, and I like doing a review on them. And this car has particularly kind of taken my imagination because, like I said, I've been waiting for this one for years. I've been thinking, are Land Rover going to completely mess it up, or are they going to do, you know, a nice kind of job in terms of the looks at least? We don't know yet exactly what it drives like, other than some of the things we've heard from people who've been lucky enough to drive them. But certainly on the looks front, I think it's definitely, initially, I think it looks good. For me, I tend to find cars that I like the look of straight away. I kind of go off over time, so I'm a bit concerned that I'm not going to like it in time, and I tend to find the cars that I don't like to begin with over a few years kind of grow on me, but we'll see. Hopefully it'll be different with this one. I really like the fact that they've got the basic version of like the steel wheels. I think it's very easy for Land Rover to make stuff kind of really fancy and tarty, like they've done with the Discovery. The Discovery used to be a really nice kind of utilitarian vehicle, quite basic, quite sort of stripped out. It was somewhere between a Defender and a Range Rover, which was nice. That was what people wanted. It always had the image of a poor man's Range Rover, but I don't think it necessarily was. There was a difference between that and the Range Rover. Not everyone wants a gas guzzling, soft leather, posh kind of luxury 4x4. Actually, the Land Rover Discovery, still a bit of a gas guzzler, but you know, a bit less so. Had a diesel engine. It didn't have plush leather. It had fairly basic kind of seats. You could throw stuff in there, you could get it dirty without worrying too much, and it fitted in nicely. It was good. And so they've got the new Discovery now, which is basically, you know, dare I say it, pretty much a Range Rover in terms of its luxury and stuff. And that's great, that's fine, but it's really nice to see that they've done the Defender now, something a little bit more basic. It's still going to be really luxurious. It's still, by the looks of things, it's got their new technology in terms of their touchscreen sort of gumph or whatever it is in the middle there that they have, the LCD screen or whatever it is. I'm not a technophobe particularly, but yeah, so, or a techno fan, whatever the word is, who knows, who cares. But basically it looks nice and basic inside. There's a bar which harks back to the old Defender, which is part of the structure of the car, which you can hold on to when you're off-road, which just gives it that bit of character. I really like the fact that there's a middle seat in the front as well. I think that's really cool. And me being a dad of two now, I can imagine me in a couple of years maybe getting one with a few thousand miles on the clock, a couple of years old, where it's lost most of its initial kind of depreciation. I can't stand buying new cars for the fact that you lose so much money on them, no matter how much money you've got. I think it's just throwing money away. So I will wait a couple of years. I'll hopefully get one that's a couple of years old. Let some other fool waste their money on the brand new one. And also just give it a chance just to see what it's like as well. In a couple of years' time, 2 or 3 years' time, we'll see whether it is actually any good or not. and it'll come down a massive money to make it worthwhile giving it a go. But yeah, I really like the way they've kept some of the character. They've got the Alpine roof, or the light glass, whatever they're called, in the back, which kind of hark back to the original one. The design from the back, I think, is better than from the front, because it's really kind of slab edged. It's really sharp looking at the back and really cuts off. The lights at the back, I think, look fantastic. They're really kind of jewel-like, as one of the Top Gear guys on YouTube said, so I've kind of pinched that, but it's true. It is jewel-like is a really good description. They look really nice, and they remind me of the old car as well. They weren't jewel-like on the old car particularly, they were little basic lights, basic bulbs, but it does remind you of that, and it just looks really functional and really good. Like I say, the steel wheels I really like. It's just functional. I certainly wouldn't be the sort of person who would opt for 20-inch alloys particularly. I think when you start tarting a car up like that, it just looks a bit silly really. I believe that's the same with the Range Rover and the Discovery as well. I think you can't beat the standard Range Rover Vogue on fairly sensible wheels, just looking nice and rugged, and you know, as soon as you start putting massive gangster wheels on the stuff, I think it ruins it. It doesn't do any good to the ride. It makes it useless not useless off-road, but not as good off-road. I just think it's a bit stupid. So nice steel wheels, I really like that. Basic interior, the seat in the front, it just looks great. I'm really looking forward to it. And in terms of engines as well, there's a few different options. There's diesels. I think there's a 300 horsepower diesel, a 240 horsepower I think, and there's apparently a 400 horsepower 6-cylinder petrol that's a hybrid as well, which would be the one I would go for. I prefer petrol over diesel every day of the week anyway. And 400 horsepower appeals to me a lot more than 300 horsepower. 300 horsepower is plenty for a car like that. I think the 400 horsepower does 0 to 60 in around 6 seconds, just under 6 seconds, something like that. So plenty quick enough for something like a Land Rover Defender really. I mean, you know, it's not going to be the fastest thing on the road, but it's plenty fast enough for something utilitarian and practical, that you can throw the kids in the back and get dirty and take off road if you want to. So yeah, it really appeals to me. I think they do about 29 to the gallon apparently, the 400 horsepower as well, so that's really nice. I saw a review by Doug Demuro as well, and he was saying how he would like to see a V8 in one, which I completely agree with that. I absolutely love V8 cars, and I know in England we have terrible petrol prices, but I think, I'm sorry, if you can afford to spend 40 or 50,000 pounds on a new car, then you shouldn't be worrying too much about fuel economy really. I mean, if you're worrying about fuel economy, then don't spend that much money on a car basically. 29 to the gallon for a petrol 400 horsepower engine, I think, is absolutely superb. It wasn't that many years ago that you got about 12-15 to the gallon from something with that kind of power. So yeah, I'd quite happily run something that did 29 to the gallon with a V8 engine. Sorry, it's a straight 6 actually, but it's 400 horsepower, so I think that's superb. Yeah, it looks like a really nice car. I'd be interested to see what other people think of it. I'm sure there are the die-hard fans of the old Defender who think it's an absolute piece of shit. But at the end of the day, you've got to be realistic. Land Rover they're a business, they need to stay successful, they need to appeal to a sort of broader market to a certain extent. And I think they've done a really good job. Just look online at the other reviews. Richardhammond does one, Top Gear, a couple of others. I think it looks great. They talk as well, one of them it doesn't even have a paint job, it's got a wrap, so if you damage it then you can take it into Land Rover and they'll re-wrap it for you and sort it out. So yeah, just little things like that just make it that kind of rugged, kind of take a bit of abuse sort of feeling. I'm sure, like most Land Rovers, it'll cost an absolute fortune to maintain it and service it. Land Rover dealers are pretty terrible when it comes to stealing money from their customers, but people still pay for it and people still love them as a brand. So you know, if customers are going to pay no matter what they charge, then I suppose in a way you can blame them. I personally think that's not really a great attitude. I think that, you know, you've got to be prepared for sort of hard times as well, I think, and when you kind of rip people off quite blatantly, it's a bit of a shame. I've had pretty bad experiences with Land Rovers in the past, but you just kind of, you suck it up and you accept that's what it's going to be. But I think for something like a Defender, it'd be nice to have a little bit of difference there in kind of running costs, maybe. I mean, it is kind of the base, it should be the kind of basic model. So yeah, they start at about 40 grand I think, and then spiral way out of control from there in terms of how many options you can put on there. I mean, I think you can easily get one for sort of 70-80 grand, so crazy money really for a Defender. But I think they're going to be a lovely car, and basically, yeah, sort of like watch this space, see how they are when they come out and we get a test drive.